All right, day 42 of the 100-day project. Today I'm tackling something that probably seems peripheral to music, but to me it's a huge component to actually a lot of performers it is. And it's the visual aspect of whatever it is you're putting together for live performance. I grew up in the 70s, 80s, and then kind of the 90s. 90s kind of dropped off as far as the kind of visuals I liked. But in the late 70s and 80s, visuals were just a huge component of a lot of the shows that I went to see. It's not that the music took a back seat, it's that the visuals accompanied it, because when we really think about it, people who attend performances are immediately impacted by the visual even before they hear a note of music. So it's something I like to cycle back around and look at. And so what I do is, after a show, and I just played one a couple nights ago, I like to think, okay, you know what, how can I ratchet this up? Obviously I'm always working on the musical aspect of it, but in venues like the ones I have available to me here, what can I do visually to ratchet things up? I have some bigger venues that afford me the space to sometimes, work in the laser, maybe a fogger. I used to do some rear projection. Actually, I'll show you a little bit of that now. I'll show you a little bit of the rear projection that I used, both stuff that I put together for myself and then the things that I put together using stock photography and live HD footage. Here's some of that. Okay, so as you might imagine, it's like taking on a whole other aspect of performance to get all that put together. It took, I don't know, over 100 hours to put together what I have in terms of rear projection, and it takes a fair amount of effort to make sure it's actually projecting behind you. For a while I hauled around, some people know this, I hauled around a fairly good size TV to project behind me, which was fun for a while, but the logistics of stuff like that get to be kind of intense. So what I look at are shows that are much bigger than mine, but things I like, and then figure out how I can scale that to my size. So one of the guys I look at, obviously I'm a big Rush fan, everybody knows that. I look at Rush, and then I also look at a guy named David Gilmour. And I'll show you some still photos of David's show, so that you can see what inspires me to make my show look visually pretty cool. So obviously he has a ton of resources and space and things like that. He's still living on residuals from Pink Floyd albums that were made 40, 50 years ago. That being the case, it still gives me, someone like me, a visual point of reference. Hey, this is what I want to shoot for, but I'm gonna have to scale it to my budget, my size venues, etc., etc., etc. So I spend some time doing that. I can't always act on it because sometimes obviously you don't want the music to suffer in the at the hands of trying to put on a visually great show. So you have to balance that out. And in the last few shows, I haven't done rear projection because it's just a lot of work, and not everyone is set up to accommodate that. Some places I can't fire lasers because I can't run a fogger to do the lasers. So I'm always looking for ways to improve. And so I spent some time today just kind of getting inspired by artists that have some longevity and have managed to balance out the visual and the musical aspect of their shows. So yeah, it's a huge component for what I think about, for what I like to present, so that people are given something cool to look at while they're listening. So anyway, that is day 42 of the 100-day project. If you have some ideas on how to ramp up a show visually or otherwise, drop me a line, let me know. I'm always open and I'm always learning, so I'd love to hear from you. That being the case, I will meet you once again for day 43 of the 100-day project, and I will see you at that time. Farewell.